Go to the bathroom. Why can't you ever throw up in the toilet?
No. A short while since we've had any Xantent. I'd love to talk to xanderhal. I wonder if he still talks to anyone. I know his dad Vorsh doesn't, but Vorsh disowned him, so all bets are off at this point. So yeah, the UK actually did it. We're gonna celebrate. We're gonna celebrate together, me and Xan, celebrating the hopefully continuing end of grooming children into thinking they're trans, and a lot of them will desist through puberty. Let's have a look.
Anti-trans rhetoric is a moral panic. It is.
Wait, the idea that anti-trans rhetoric exists is a moral panic? It kind of is in a way. But I think he's trying to say that that is the moral panic. Oh, he's shaved. How's he going to be like tweaking his beard all day? I don't know if people have watched much of this guy. He's like constantly like fucking, oh, it drives me insane.
Trans people are, to a lot of cis people, scary, different.
To a lot of cis people. How would you know? When was the last time you left your house? I've worked in a lot of places around a lot of normal people. Most of them don't give a f whether you're trans. They care about what you're like as a person. And what I'm learning actually is that it's kind of the same here. Like the way people treat me seems more based on the kind of stuff I say than anything else. So I end up, ironically, with a lot of trans and queeroid type people hating on me. Whereas a lot of cis people or anti-trans people aren't actually really anti-trans towards me. And I think it's probably a bit more complicated. But hey, I don't know. I'm just trying to actually understand people instead of listening to people like this who never leave their house tell us about it. Because again, he's probably got a bunch of trans people in his ear and he's just trying to appeal to them. He's just trying to get what little money he can, like scrape what he can out of this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Weird. Some may even just say gross.
Trans people are scary to other trans people too. Yep, true.
And because of that, when arguing in the favor of trans rights, you're fighting an uphill battle because people are.
Yes, the puke stream. The last thing I did. We can play it. We can play the puke memes again. Seeing as someone mentioned it, the last thumbnail I did with him in it, I got him right at the point where it started filling up. You know, sorry, that's a bit gross. And then his much older girlfriend at the time's like, why can't you ever throw up in the toilet? Yep, trans people are often awful to each other. I definitely know that for a fact. Listen, I sit there criticizing other trans people and I criticize the ideology. I get it. It's going to rub some people the wrong way. But like people just come after me, like telling me how miserable and bitter and shit I am. It's like, okay, great, amazing. I'll just file that with all the other opinions from people that don't know a thing about me and aren't prepared to understand me, you know? Who cares?
Morally, they're kind of like shallow, just nodding their head as if you're a child and going along with what they're saying, but not actually internalizing any of it and like introspectively considering what you're saying. So
anyway, I could listen one more time. I could do this all fucking day.
Just nodding their head as if you're a child and going along with what they're saying, but not actually internalizing any of it and like introspectively considering what you're saying. So like a Cheeto sounds to me kind of like that, like a good person on the outside, but like intellectually and I guess morally, they're kind of like shallow, and they don't really look inward at themselves and try to like critique their own ideas to the point where like, you know,
and he's got like the weed sign in the background. It's like the green light. It's like, what did you think was gonna happen, bro?
Constantly backslide back to those dog shit takes until eventually they alienate everyone.
I love this clip. It's fucking hilarious.
Like,
sure, I think that you're probably right about.
Oh, he wasn't prepared for this. This was one of those like, it starts coming up and it's like this is it. There's nothing. Locked is in a LA Beast. Have you ever seen the LA Beast video where he eats loads of like those sugar-free gummy bears? Absolutely amazing. I love the LA Beast. I haven't watched him in a while, but like that was some of the shit I used to watch during COVID.
About that for a lot of people. What? Did Xanderhal just die?
I think he's wrong.
Xanderhal died. No.
Okay, guys.
No.
Shut up. Wait, everyone stop. Calm.
You can hear it. Listen, I'm just waiting for the why can't you ever throw up in the toilet, and then we'll just get back to the actual video, don't worry.
Calm yourself,
He's
calm.
throwing up, guys. He'll be just a second.
Hey, remember Lani, who apparently was stealing money off of him and like gambling and like spending all his money on meth or something.
Christ.
Hi, Lonnie.
I'm okay. Are you?
All right, that is unfortunate. The things Zen does for his career.
Cut it all. End it.
I puke for
Is
charity.
he good?
You know, that should be the next $1,000 goal. Xanderhal pukes for charity.
So sorry for laughing, Sam. I'm so sorry for laughing.
Please.
I'm not. Like,
This is.
he does it to himself to an extent.
Oh
and also, he's having
Hey,
fun.
go to the bathroom. Why can't you ever throw up in the toilet?
Why can't you ever throw up in the toilet? Implying that this happens or happened at the time somewhat regularly. Listen, any vomit-based xanderhal nicknames are okay by me, trust me. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop ruining your lunch.
Already prone to incredulously deny or discredit things that are new or strange to them.
Yeah, that's it. The only problem people have with anything to do with trans is that it's new and strange, not that there's certain issues with integrating it into the rest of society. How much does he... Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, how much does he fucking sit there puffing at his desk, you know? This floor, you probably can't see the acid burns fucking patches, but they're there. Stomach acid burns, sorry, should I say.
Obviously, I don't agree with this mindset. That's why I'm calling it out right now. But I think it's still important to explain where
Hawkmoth, that sounds rough. I'm sorry you have to deal with that.
they are mentally, why they think like this, how they got.
Oh yes, please, xanderhal, person who does not talk to anyone that has any like opposition to trans ideology whatsoever. Please tell us how their minds work. I'm sure you're the person that knows.
There, right? So, where the right or conservatives, anti-trans pundits,
by the way, how many conservatives does this guy hang out with? How many people does he hang out with, more to the point? Trans isn't new, why wouldn't the normies just tell the truth? I fucking don't know. Xanderhal isn't a normie though, he's a fucking leftoid shill, and these people on the side here, these are the people whose money he's taking for old rope.
have focused a lot of their attention has been on kids. Intuitively,
Yes, because people are worried about their kids being brought into something they don't understand. Something, by the way, if your kid starts identifying as trans, suddenly their chance of committing suicide, by your own admission, I'm sure, instantly fucking shoots up. Why would parents want their kids to be part of that? Especially when they barely understand it themselves, and are then being told all this crazy shit by doctors that they have to somehow work out what's the best for their kid, who might end up abandoning them because they made the wrong decision. It's fucking hell. And these people, who almost none of them have kids, by the way, will not empathize with the parents that are put in this extremely difficult position by the existence of this whole thing, quite frankly.
without much of an education about the issue of trans people, their existence, the things they face, their problems, etc.
I am what this person presumably would call anti-trans. I know lots about this stuff because I've been trans for almost like 10 fucking years.
It's easy to just assume that being trans is like a thing that people do as a life decision. It's a lot like
Is it not? Literally, it is a fucking decision. We pretend that it's innate, whilst also talking about it as something that anyone can identify as. Meaning it's a choice, necessarily.
how well-meaning, like not necessarily homophobic, but still somewhat ignorant people who are straight imagine being gay. That it's like a choice that people make, and
People still think this, really. I don't know anyone like this.
you know, as long as they're not hurting anybody, who cares, right? It's not necessarily a hateful idea, but it is a by default ignorant idea that a lot of people, you know, go to when it comes.
Yeah, it is kind of ignorant in a way, because whilst agreed, a trans person existing is not hurting anyone. What happens is this kind of ideology starts seeping its way into the culture. Like, you see how captured a lot of like media outlets, a lot of entertainment and stuff like that is by like progressive ideas like this. You see how kids are now being taught about these identities and like being encouraged to like pick them out. Which one closely aligns with you? Why do they need this shit? I don't know, but they do apparently. So yeah, there's a lot to it. It's really not just trans people exist, that's bad. Trans people existing is fucking fine. I'm trans myself. Why would I have a problem with that? It's the fact that we're trying to put it onto kids. It's the fact that we're allowing 890 medals to be taken from female athletes by males who also are winning all of the men's fucking medals, by the way. So I guess men just get more of a share of the medals than the women do necessarily. How nice. How nice. But yeah, there's a lot of problems. It's not about people existing.
To these issues. And when it comes to trans people, it's this idea that it's a very out there lifestyle choice.
You I known wanted to trans because they couldn't deal with being a gay man, which to me is homophobic and regressive. Yeah, you get them. You get people that they couldn't accept themselves as a homosexual, or they thought they would struggle as a homosexual, so they decide to start being trans. And yeah, it is kind of homophobic. And in that sense, you get someone like Mr. Menno. I actually kind of understand where he's coming from, because it does seem like a lot of gay people are like roped into this. We don't hate individual people, we hate the ideology. I don't even, like, if it weren't for specific things, then plenty of people wouldn't even hate the fucking ideology. Like, if you want to transition, ultimately, as long as you're an adult and you know what decision you're making, and you can accept the consequences of that, especially if you realize it's not for you, then it's really not a problem. But we get kids that don't really understand what they're getting themselves into. We get parents that seem to be being told the sum total of, your kid needs to do this or they'll kill themselves, you know? And that's not good enough. Like, no wonder there's a backlash. It's because we haven't handled this shit very well. And we haven't dealt with clashes between trans woman rights and female rights, you know? But he's not gonna get anywhere near that far, unfortunately. I'd love to try and talk to this guy. Maybe get some sense out of him. I think he's a little less crazy than, like, Alec Gunter. But if I can find one ally that I can at least explain the actual issue to, and at least get them to understand, even if they still disagree, they're fucking free too. We're all different people. By the way, quail ones, how long has this quail shit been going on for? Anyway.
Is how a lot of people see it. And so when
they act like it's 100% true and teach the kids like facts, why I hate it so much. Yes, there is really no evidence for the way gender identity works. And there's no evidence that it isn't just things that people make up. And you can't just make yourself up something and be that thing. Probably why I have a soft spot for Mr. Menno. I understand this sort of gay man. Yeah, I do understand where he's coming from, honestly. And I try and do that with everyone. But the problem is, a lot of these people on the trans side are just, like, cooked. He's not less crazy. Maybe, I don't know. I might have... Listen, I thought Alec Gunter, maybe, is the one person I could favorably compare him to. That or Nominal Naomi. I don't know. I'll think about that. But I don't think he's quite as bad as Alec Gunter. Alec Gunter is, like, actually just retarded. There's no helping someone like that. And there never will be.
Conversations are ever brought up about whether or not kids should be allowed to transition, or
Pig Puncher is xanderhal's old name because he played Minecraft or something, and his whole claim to fame was how I escaped the alt-right pipeline back in 2020. That's why he's big. So we've got 104k subscribers for what? For hot takes like whatever the fuck he's talking about here, I guess.
Any transition should be facilitated by doctors, parents, or any party.
Where's chat? I don't know. I don't know what's going on with my chat. Twitch is coming up. If YouTube isn't, we're having some problems today. I do apologize.
However, it is a very easy gut reaction to say no. Just like getting a tattoo, or a crazy haircut, or a bunch of piercings, kids should not be allowed to make these crazy lifestyle choices. Maybe when they're older they can, but that's when they're fully cognizant adults, not...
Yes, when they've had experiences, when they understand. What, Gunt? Yeah, Gunt is insane. I would rather talk to XanderHurl than Gunt, because I'd rather talk to anyone than Gunt. I'd rather have a conversation with any person, so long as they're capable of arguing in any other way than, well, prescribe me a policy that's completely foolproof immediately. Because that's the way he argues. Crazy.
When they're children, and you'll oftentimes hear talking points like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fire truck, or I thought I could become...
Yeah, the point is kids go through phases and that they're changeable. I was the same. I thought I'd be a racing driver when I was a kid. I thought I'd be a footballer, even though I was fucking terrible at football. I thought I'd be a fucking rock star. That hasn't worked very well. I've got all the fucking guitars and all that shit, but none of the rest of it. Because that's just how it goes. Life doesn't turn out how you want it to. You don't necessarily know what kind of person you're going to grow up into. Personally, I think that whatever gender is, insofar as it's part of your overall identity, it's pretty malleable. It's changeable. Like it can be affected by experiences, like outside sources. So why would you pin it down, especially in childhood? I think that's nuts. We can have a conversation if you want. Hit me up. If you have Discord, that's the best place to do it. Otherwise, on Twitter, I am at the Marichu. You can get me there.
Become a dinosaur, or some shit like that, right? And it'll be used to throw a wrench in the idea that, like, kids can know what they want to be. Now, these are conversations that exist at a very low level of logical scrutiny. No one who makes these arguments is doing any research on these topics or
Wrong, absolutely wrong. You probably could say that I make some of these arguments. I've done plenty of research, in fact. Lots of people have. You look at some of these organizations like GenSpect, things like that. You can think what you want about them, but they do research. And they highlight research and they share things, you know what I mean? They've like read things and stuff.
Looking into medical data, because if you do, you will find that things like medical transition and one of the most popular parts in the process of transitioning for...
Listen, I wanted to be a rock star. I ended up working in retail. I ended up working in a cafe. I ended up working in a bar. I ended up working in a restaurant with an agency. I ended up being a letting agent for a bunch of years. I ended up working in some shitty fucking jewelry store full of sociopaths. That's just how life is. And like these spoiled fucks seem to think that because all he ever wanted to do was fucking play Minecraft for a living, and unfortunately he's not good enough at Minecraft to do that. Like, that's just how everyone is, apparently. These fucking people that barely leave their houses, they're always the ones trying to tell you how society works, you know?
Underage trans people, hormone blockers are totally safe.
Totally safe, are they? Where are you getting this from? Where's your idea that puberty blockers are totally safe? What if they take them for too long? What if they take them too late? What if they end up not growing properly down there because your genitals don't grow properly if you have puberty blockers? Potentially. You might have atrophy down there, which from what I've heard is very, very painful. You might end up with bone issues because they didn't develop properly. You're putting a pause on someone's life and then saying it's completely reversible. It's completely safe. Is it? Is it? What are you basing this on? Is there anything linked? Is there anything linked? Yes, you can donate to xanderhal. Donate to me instead, by the way. You can go on his website. You can go on his fan Discord. Fan Discord. Is it not even his? The Xanderholics. I'm already in there, by the way. Don't tell him though. Shh. Like, what does he know about this? He's just repeating the doctrine, it seems like. You can make money from music. It's so hard, but so rewarding. Yeah, I make fuck all money. Like, I've had a few more sales. Like, I've actually been better at promoting since I started streaming and wasn't really making music anymore. And like, all my old stuff, like, some of it's selling a bit better, which is nice. Like, hey, I don't like asking for money for nothing. You know? When I was a kid, my parents got me astronomy books and I wanted to be an astronomer. Then I watched The Mummy and wanted to be an archaeologist. And I work graves in manufacturing. Life, bro. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's how it is. This guy, I don't know what normal jobs he's had, if any. He probably, because he's a bit younger, probably wanted to be a fucking streamer. Probably saw Destiny when he was about 14 or whatever. And like, oh yeah, I want to be just like Destiny. And then he turned out like this because as much as Destiny is like obnoxious and shit, he also has a bit of smarts, and xanderhal does not have that. So he can only take on the bad traits of someone like Destiny and not any of the good ones, you know? Social ramifications, yes. social ramifications. Yeah, you've got people who get stunted, they get kind of locked in a certain place in life, they're not growing with the rest of their peers, they end up more isolated. We talk about how it's time to think. It's not time to think. Overwhelmingly, they go on to the next step, which means that it's not really time to think, it's more confirming. A bit like so is social transition. It's not just this reversible thing you can just do. Because if you're a teenager, you come out as a girl at like 13, what happens if you're 15 and you're like, I don't think I'm a girl anymore? Now the rest of your fucking school days, you've got all these people like, oh, remember when you used to be a girl, innit? Like, no one seems to think about that. And like when that Malcolm guy reacted to my conversation with Alec, he actually picked up on that, and I'm, Jesus Christ, I'm not actually fucking insane. Someone has a brain here, someone understands what I'm talking about. Like, there's a lot of social pressure that comes from a lot of different places that these people are pretending doesn't exist, necessarily, in order to make this make sense. Anyway, I'll stop ranting.
For instance, if we go to cedarsinai.org, this is just one of many medical outlets and reputable outlets that will back up exactly what I'm
Reputable outlets.
telling you. While puberty blockers have been scrutinized by some due to their use in caring for transgender children, these drugs have been in use since the 1980s and are over...
For a different issue. Why does this keep coming up? Why are we so desperate to pretend that precocious puberty and child transition are the same thing? They are not. Malcolm has a good voice, even is a bit prog on the issue. I have a theory that Malcolm's audience is like significantly more soy than he is. He made a bit of a thing of like, oh, I don't actually agree with Mary on much stuff. I reckon we agree more than he thinks we do. Either that or he knows we agree more. But his audience are not going to like me necessarily. That's what I think. But I quite like Malcolm, honestly. And it was nice to hear someone actually understand what the fuck I'm talking about. Because I don't really get much, like, you know, I don't talk to many people I disagree with. I'd like to talk to more, but it's quite difficult to find them.
overwhelmingly safe.
You get made fun of on top of being called a faker. Yeah, you'll be disavowed by the trans community. All your mates will be taking the piss out of you till the end of time. You probably won't just be able to go back and make friends with the guys again because, like, kids do tend to sort of segregate themselves a little bit more like girls and boys to an extent. At least that's been my experience. And maybe part of it is how schools are set up. Maybe part of that is me being a bit older, but I don't know.
And if used safe if used appropriately.
Safe if used appropriately. So think about this for a sec. Precocious puberty. Let's say the kid takes them at the age of 8 and then ends up having a puberty later on when they're like 11. That's very different from taking puberty blockers at the age of like 12 and desisting. And then desisting on those at the age of like 14 or 15. You've been stunted for 2 years. That's how it is. It's a different usage. And we're just pretending, we're conflating two different things. And I've tried to get this into people's heads. I really tried with those queer gossip people to explain that it's not the same thing. And they just won't have it. It's impossible. It's impossible to reach people on this shit. And it's mad. It's just so obvious that this is not the same thing. Oh, thank you, Steel Priest. If you never work a day in your life, it becomes Xander. Yeah, he has no, like, perspective, I don't think. I don't think he really knows what the world is like. I don't think he really knows what most normal people are like. And so he has this impression that most cis people find trans a bit scary. They don't find it scary. People are curious about things. For the most part, people don't give a shit as long as you're not a terrible person. And what tends to set people off a bit more is if you're one of those militant types that anything they say wrong, you'll jump on. Because people don't like confrontation usually. Like, I'm sorry. It's mad. I don't know what the fuck he's on.
Side effects such as bone health risks typically occur only with prolonged use past the...
Yeah, so they're not reversible. And you don't know that they're never used this way either.
Age of puberty, which is
when they're used with trans people. Because they get to the puberty age and they take them. And then they're waiting a bunch. Not having the puberty they're meant to be. So they're starting to get beyond the normal range of puberty. xanderhal, do you hear yourself when you speak? Please, please, xanderhal, I beg you, I beg you. Anyway.
When you would obviously stop using puberty blockers because after the age of puberty, you're basically an adult.
Obviously. Yeah, just go through puberty at age 21. Nothing wrong's gonna happen. Fucking hell.
And at that point...
Here's the other thing, by the way. Taking cross-sex hormones, having not gone through puberty, that doesn't put you through a different puberty. Because if you're a male, all that stuff that happens where you become fertile and stuff as a female, that can't happen because you don't have any of that stuff.
I love you, Mary.
Oh, thank you so much, AMV.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you so much, AMV. Very kind.
Point, you just take hormones, because the conversation of they're too young to know what they want wouldn't really be a factor anymore, right?
Okay, here's another mistake he's making. So, listen, I'm trying to be as nice as I can. I'm trying not to ad harm anyone. I'm trying to explain the problems. Because I know what's going to happen. People are still going to watch and be like, oh, you did this tiny thing that I don't like. That invalidates everything you've said. Guess what? It fucking doesn't. You're just an idiot. Anyway, here's the problem. Let me just get that one more time because I forgot.
Because the conversation of they're too young to know what they want...
They're too young to know what they want. They made that decision initially before their puberty blockers. They made that decision initially at a young age. Puberty blockers, you're overwhelmingly more likely to start taking hormones afterwards. Meaning that decision you made as a kid, that's just the first link in the chain, and the chain keeps going. You still made that decision when you made it. It doesn't become a case of, well, now you're old enough to understand and you're taking cross-sex hormones. There'll be all this affirmation. Having gone through the puberty blockers, there'll be a sunk cost fallacy type of thing. And then on top of that, you'll have social transition, which is 100% affirmation. And it's powerful. Like, socially transitioning your kid, even that is a risk. Like, you're loading the dice with everything you do like this. And it just becomes more and more loaded because, you know, people get the sunk cost fallacy. They might find themselves getting into some kind of community with other so-called like-minded people. Fingers crossed they never change their mind and get fucking ousted like a lot of fucking trans people do, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the problem with that. You're not delaying the decision. You've made the decision. You might go back on the decision, but most likely you will not. But they will pass better, so it's all fine. Yeah, very, very male way of looking at it. Most of the time, it's like older FTM transsexuals that seem to have that viewpoint. Not all of them. We're not generalizing. But almost everyone I listen to who's like transitioning in their 40s and 50s, who for some reason had dysphoria since the age of 6, but just couldn't put a word on it until now, when trans has been a big thing for a long time. They all seem to overwhelmingly think that if they'd gone through puberty blockers, they would have been happy in life, which happiness is such a complicated thing to put onto one thing like that. And it's really weird wanting to like live vicariously through kids, which I don't know that anyone's wanting to do that, but that's kind of, it has to be a thought in your mind. You have to worry if that's the case, because it's going to be the case for some people. If you can think of a fucked up thing that someone wants to do, there's probably someone out there doing it. Just saying.
It wouldn't really be a factor anymore, right?
These people have no idea how hard it is, admitting you were wrong when you're socially trans. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Like, even for me, going back on it now would be difficult. And I've very much come out as a supposed anti-trans person. So I don't know. But then beyond anything for me, I am post-op. I can't get any of that stuff back. So it's a good job that I'm okay with it. It's a good job that I'm actually quite happy in my transition, you know?
And so things like puberty blockers exist as like the answer to the conservative argument. What if these kids don't know that they're trans? What if...
Listen, we've already explained it. Let's just keep playing. We've already explained it. It's not to give them time to make a decision when almost all of them carry on. It's part of the affirmation. It's just another link in the chain. And yes, you can break the chain, but that doesn't mean most people are going to. It was for me and I'm 33. Imagine when you're barely out of your teenage years. Yeah. Especially in your teenage years. Like at school and stuff. You're getting the piss ripped out of you for the rest of the time, especially if you're like, you know... Actually, never mind. I don't know if it's worse for girls or boys, to be honest. I don't know.
They just think that they're trans. We also got to talk about the fact that gender dysphoria is also recognized by doctors and scientists overwhelmingly.
Well, yeah, because that's where the culture is now. What choice do they have? There's people that want this shit medicalized. There's people that have an interest in it being medicalized because they're surgeons or therapists that can make bank out of this stuff. And they'll just affirm almost everyone that comes into the door. Remember, I read the WPATH files. There was one guy, his line was someone like hallucinating in the consultancy. That was his line. He'd treat anyone else. These people want money. They want their bank. So of course they're gonna say it needs to be in the DSM. It needs to be medicalized because they're making their money off this shit. Like, he doesn't realize how much more fucked it is in his country than mine, because my country doesn't have as much of this problem, I guess.
And it is agreed upon overwhelmingly that the proper treatment for gender dysphoria, especially in youth, is to validate their gender.
The proper treatment. No, it's just been crowbarred in as the only treatment. You talk about another treatment, like talking therapy. Nope, you can't do that. That's conversion therapy. Like, there's been a vested interest for a long time now in funneling it down this one path because it's working for certain people and because WPATH gets their fucking bank off of it. He hasn't got a clue, and that's terrifying. I'm the trans person. I should be the one, like, fucking... I should be the one sticking up for this shit, and yeah, I'm not. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's bizarre. Oh, enjoy. You don't want to smell like xanderhal. Have you been smoking weed? Is that it? It's a bit early, unless you're in, like, Australia or something, in which case maybe it's not.
Identity. It's to, if they say they're a girl, they're a girl. Let them...
But that doesn't make sense. If you say you're a girl, xanderhal, are you a girl? No, you're not a girl. Why not? Why aren't you a girl if you say you're not a girl?
Dress as such. Let them change their name. Use their...
Let them dress as such. Okay. Aren't we supposed to be pushing back against the idea that clothes have gender? Apparently not.
Preferred pronouns. And if they want to prevent...
Does anyone know if xanderhal is a gender abolitionist? I've never heard him actually say that. I know Vorsh is, and I know Alec Gunter is. Don't start with the weed. At least not until it's, like, dark out. Listen, if it's after 5 p.m, it's probably fine. Oh, transphobe copes over Trans Day of Remembrance. Oh, I'm still waiting for Alex Gunt to post my conversation with him so that I can tell him that I didn't realize that YouTube allowed uploads of rape. Anyway, I just want to see if he's ever mentioned, like, gender abolitionist. Giga Stacy trans woman, that being nominal Naomi. In what way is nominal Naomi a Stacy? Isn't that like the hot ones? The ones that are like, you know, ugh. Simping for nominal Naomi, disgusting, gross. You might be high around. And listen, no judgment here. I don't really give a shit. You know, I'm a bit into hedonism myself. You know what I mean? You function though. Yeah, true. You do daily. Yeah, I mean, listen, as long as you got a handle on it, as long as you can exist, then hey. Okay, I have no idea if this fucking guy's a gender abolitionist. It kinda mixes up their whole point. Michelle Cera. Nice. Naomi proper reminds me of Michael Cera. Anyway, let's keep going.
In this case, I guess, male...
Kids go through phases, best to treat it that way. With trans teens, it becomes apparent it isn't. Yeah. We should stop teaching kids that puberty is a death sentence and that they have to do it as quickly as they can. Come on, kids. Get your ass moving. None of us went through puberty blockers. We've all got deep voices and Adam's apples and stuff. But it's not too late for you. Get your fucking puberty blockers now before it's too late.
Puberty? Then let them go on puberty blockers.
Yeah, just let them do what they want. Who cares if it fucks up their life? Who cares if years down the line they are infertile or missing their breasts or something like that, and then they decide they're not okay with that? Don't worry about that. Just let them make decisions that, you know, as children, that they might grow up and then feel a sense of pain that they made a decision as a child that now means that they can't have kids or they can't breastfeed their kids or something like that. It's irresponsible.
Seems like with the recommendation of doctors and the guidance of doctors and medical...
Recommendation of doctors who have a financial... He's a leftist. He's more of a leftist than I am. How does he not know this? Fucking big pharma, all that shit. What are you doing? What are you actually doing?
Professionals, it's completely safe and recommended.
Completely safe. Okay, there we go. That's why so many trans people kill themselves. That's why detransition numbers appear to be on the rise, and we're pretty much due a wave of them anytime now because of the amount of little girls that we insist on. Well, they have a permanent baby dick. True. And then they have to take a bit of their colon to be a vagina and hope nothing goes wrong, like someone like Brianna Ivy, for example. Wonder if xanderhal's ever watched a interview of someone like Brianna Ivy.
The thing is, though...
Wow, chat, that was a good one, huh? I like it. I used to watch Xander. Listen, in 2020-ish, I definitely gave him a chance, and I thought he was alright for a while, but it got to the point where I was like, this is actually terrible, isn't it? This is actually terrible. It was the same with Vorsh. I liked Vorsh for a little bit, and then I was like, yeah, nah, fuck this.
There's a moral panic against it, and the right have declared...
There's a moral panic against it. I think I've mentioned a lot of things that prove that it is not a moral panic, and there are actual concerns. And when I say concerns, I don't just mean you can contrapoint it and be like, oh, well, you don't actually mean concerns when you say concerns, because that's just bad faith and bullshit, okay? I mean actual concerns. I've just mentioned a bunch of them. And these people will just say the same shit that is so easily fucking knocked out of the park at this point because I've done it over and over and over again. And I guess I'll just do this till the end of time because I need people to hear that this is not the only way of thinking about trans. And the way that society is coming back around to hit us back on the arse, a change of like, fuck, what was I saying? A change of perspective is necessary for survival, in my opinion.
Declared war against trans people, and they have polarized people, particularly those that hold positions in government, against it. This is one of those situations where, much like with climate change, it doesn't matter what the scientists, the doctors, the...
Does this guy think that people like Nancy Mace going on her bathroom crusade that she's on right now is because of transphobic rhetoric, like, seeping in? It's really not that. It's, if anything, the other way round. It's because this stuff has gone so crazy and no one seems willing to do anything about it. And now the time is optimal. So Nancy Mace to me is like an opportunist. I don't even really agree with what she's doing. I think bathroom bans are a bit too far, honestly. And it makes much more sense that people just go where they look best at and that you should just leave people the fuck alone. And if you cause any problems, then yeah, I hope you get your fucking ass handed to you. But it sure as fuck isn't because people are more transphobic. It's because of this shit, like, driving people insane. That's the problem.
The actual profession, the professionals in these fields say, once the populist sentiment has gotten inflamed...
This is what the professionals in the field say. Okay, well, it must be true then. You just blindly believe what anyone with a fucking PhD at the end of their name tells you. Because none of those people have ever lied. Doctors never lie. Nancy Mason saw an opportunity and seized it. Exactly. And we made the conditions for this to happen. Like, people don't want this woke shit anymore. And if we were like more moderate and we weren't pushing for like trans kids, trans people in sports, taking 890 medals from female athletes, 890 and counting, sorry. This is just what happens. And I'm sorry, I don't agree with it either. I think it sucks. But this is how it happens. And I just kind of hope that people won't take that shit out on me because I'm trans and they might see me and think that I'm trying to fuck the culture or something. We tried to push the culture too far, too fast, and it's coming back. There's a reason why you shouldn't do the kind of shit that the trans side has been doing for years now, because you end up losing a lot of what you had and maybe then some. Like, I hate to tell her how it is, but actually, no, I love doing that, so.
Claimed enough? Then you might get a story like this. UK Health Secretary confirms ban on puberty blockers.
Again, because it's coming back round. We all lied about J.K. Rowling for years. And then slowly, people start listening, realizing that it's not actually how people like this say it is. That she's not just some rabid transphobe trying to fucking shove as many people under the water as she can. That actually it's about more than that. And it's about like women's rights and stuff like that, and that there's another side to this conversation that we all ignore. Has he spoken about women's rights once here? Or any time that he's been talking about this? I haven't heard him, for sure. Fucking hell. Anyway.
The UK is...
Wes, yes. Listen. Wes, you ever want to talk to a sane transsexual about trans people harassing the fuck out of you? I'm your man. The Mary Chew, hit me up. Love your work, by the way.
Banning puberty blockers for minors.
And by the way, we still get people on like GB News and shit like that insisting that any of this continuing woke shit must be the fault of Labour. They're the ones banning puberty blockers. Keir Starmer was saying before how he didn't want like LGBT fucking rhetoric in kids like fucking schools and stuff. I'm sorry. I think they're actually kind of doing some shit here. I think they're actually not what we pretend they are all the time. This is probably why I'll always love KJK, no matter how screechy she gets. Women do need their own space. Yeah, I'm not a fan of KJK myself, but I understand why people... It's the same thing. Again, we created the conditions for people like KJK to flourish. And so we shouldn't be screaming at those people. We should be trying to be more reasonable, in my opinion. Maybe that means me a fucking respectability politics cuck. Well, guess what? I think the alternative, unlike what fucking Matt Berenstein or whatever the fuck his name is says, it's not about being less flamboyant. It's about being sensible. It's about understanding that society is a compromise and that politics is about compromise and working with all different people that don't believe everything that you believe so that you can get done what you want to do. But hey, we can just simplify it and West Streeting is evil, I guess. Cool, amazing.
Specifically only in the case of having gender dysphoria, because they've already used puberty blockers for decades for other issues. So
yes, different issues. And by the way, I don't know if it's true, but I think it was another thing I saw in that Malcolm stream. Apparently most of the data is for like young girls and not young boys. And maybe that's why you end up with situations like Marcy Bowers talking on camera about how all the little boys that they transitioned in Tanner stage 2, like none of them can orgasm anymore. Like, Jesus Christ. Wonder how he would deal. xanderhal. I mean, listen, he lives like a fucking monk and has done for years. Like, imagine he couldn't squeeze one out ever. How would he deal with that? I don't know, because he'll never engage with that kind of thing. Again, this is why I want to talk to these people and try and not have it be just some debate bro fest and like actually just have a conversation about, well, there's these concerns and these concerns, and you actually have to listen to this shit. I was piqued when I saw all those TRAs screaming at all those ladies, most of them grandmothers. Yeah, I can imagine. Listen, I've just been peaking over and over and over and over and over again for like 3 years now. It's just been nonstop. I think that I peak and I've reached a point where I kind of see both sides, and then I just keep peaking. And I thought I peaked so fucking hard that I started a channel and fucked off basically everything else in my life. But I'm still peaking now. It's still happening. It's like slow motion or something. I don't know when it's going to stop.
So it's not that the puberty blockers are unsafe, it's just they're banning it as a treatment, which is agreed upon to be by the medical community for gender dysphoria in youth.
The medical community? What, the trans-positive medical community? Jesus Christ. These people are like the most insanely cynical people ever. Like when it comes to like big pharma and shit like that, but then as soon as it's like trans shit, suddenly they're the most honest and fucking benevolent people in the world and they can do no wrong. It doesn't make any sense. I need to think of a good comparison that shows like the hypocrisy of this kind of view, but I don't have one to hand, so you'll have to bear with me on that.
Enough evidence about the long-term effects of using puberty blockers to treat.
That would make most people more suicidal than dysphoria. Yes, we never want to talk about what happens if you put a kid through puberty blockers and they transition and then they regret it. Isn't that going to make them suicidal? Why are we saying, well, they're suicidal now, supposedly, according to very nebulous data, which is quite possibly full of captured information from people that will say it's worse than it is so that they'll continue their treatment or won't be told that they don't need it when they want it. Like, let's not think about that at all. Fuck, I can't remember what I was saying. You know what I mean. Hi, Serena. I hope you're well. I'm ranting today for some reason. One of those days. Just one of those days. Anyway.
Gender incongruence to know whether they are safe or beneficial. I'm acting on the commission.
This is untrue, by the way. The medical consensus opposes this. This is the same as when a Republican politician...
Nope. By the way, the BMA, the British Medical Association, they turned their stance. Initially, they were really against this because they're all fucking soy. And by the way, we talk about the CAS review not being run by experts. The BMA chair that was complaining about this puberty blockers ban and the CAS review and stuff, he's not a fucking trans expert either. He's not a trans doctor. But they've changed their stance. They're more neutral now. I don't know if they've come out with their criticisms of the CAS review yet, but I mean, it's kind of irrelevant at this point because they're not even following the CAS review. They're going further than the CAS review. First started questioning when sexual violence was lobbed at JK. I hate Alex Jones, Donald Trump, but I've never threatened to rape them. Yeah, same. I don't like violent rhetoric. I definitely don't like fucking rapist rhetoric. Like, Jesus Christ. And some of these people, I don't know if xanderhal does it as much, but like people like Alec Gunter do this, and like even Destiny had a pretty egregious phase of doing this, where like they keep using rape as like all their arguments, and it's like they're talking about something different, and like comes in like, well, it's like, imagine you get raped, and it's like, Jesus, just stop, just chill, fucking hell. Anyway.
Politician goes up and says, there's no such thing as climate change, the Chinese hoax. It's like, yeah, politics.
Yeah, exactly. Disagree with what they're saying. I don't always agree with J.K. Rowling, but I don't hate her, and I don't think she's a transphobe, and I don't think she deserves to get like attacked or like raped. That's fucking nuts. And anyone saying so, they no longer have the fucking good person, you know, goodwill that they get from being pro-trans, because they're like threatening rape on someone or saying that they hope someone gets raped. Like, that's ghoulish. I don't want to associate with any of those people. Are those people better than transphobes? Are those people better than racists? Bigots of any kind? I don't know about that. I'd rather be around someone who's a bit bigoted than someone who threatens rape on people that they disagree with. I don't know about anyone else.
Politicians can have this opinion, even when the actual truth or the scientific consensus is contrary to it.
Actual truth or scientific consensus? What scientific consensus? Is there really an overall scientific consensus on trans? Or is it like WPATH and other captured areas of medicine? Even if she was a transphobe, I wouldn't threaten to rape her. Exactly, yeah. If I thought that she was an evil transphobe, and like, I did for a while. I thought she was a terrible person for a long time, because I listened to people like ContraPoints. And nowadays I realize that I've been lied to and strung along endlessly with that shit. I have no business like threatening fucking rape. Like, are you kidding me? Disgusting. Like, I don't want any harm to come to any of these people. Like xanderhal, you think I want harm to come to this person? No. If he manages to live a happy life one day, great, amazing.
Advice to put an indefinite order in place to restrict the sale or supply of puberty blockers through a prescription.
Oh, that was a hot take. Time to hit the vape.
Issued by either a private UK prescriber or a prescriber registered outside the UK for under 18.
Yes, Wes. Yes, Wes.
I know it's not easy being a trans kid in our country today. The trans community.
Max didn't threaten to rape me. He said he hopes he'll die. He did things that you probably could consider death threats. I don't think he said anything about rape. But, I don't know, is death threats any better?
Is at the wrong end of all of the statistics for mental ill health, self-harm, and suicide.
You just contributed even further to it. Pretending like you care about the statistics.
How so, xanderhal? How is he pretending like he cares? Explain that. Can you read his mind? A lot of this hinges on pretending you can read minds. Watch the ContraPoints video. Tell me that the way she talks about concerns isn't just her applying what she thinks someone thinks, and that maybe she can't fathom why people think this way. I can, because I've listened to these people, and I realized that I actually agree with a bunch of what they say. I shut this shit out for years. When was the last time he listened with an open mind to a gender critical voice, you know? And I was the same. I realized that mistake. I realized I had to push through my offense. I realized if I'm offended by something, for example, a gender critical perspective, I should think about why I'm offended by that and work through it so that I'm not anxious around that thing anymore. And I've managed to make a lot of fucking progress doing that. Okay, Max is someone from something called the Queer Gossip. I had some vague kind of debate or something with them quite a while ago. They then did a follow-up where they reacted to this debate. I ended up reacting to it myself because it was funny. The Max person who was going insane at me most of this debate, talking about how he like hopes I die and talk about what a terrible person I am, like a month after we had this debate. Not that I'm living rent-free in their head or whatever. But yeah, one of my debacles. I've only had two like disastrous conversations, and that was one of them. If you've seen my Alec Gunter conversation, it's similar to that, but even worse.
Statistics or the data when the data shows that a lack of acceptance and a lack of provided gender affirmation care leads to a higher rate of depression and suicide and
it leads to a higher rate of suicidality and depression per their testimony results. But like I said, people exaggerate that kind of thing. Someone who goes into the gender clinic isn't going to say, I feel like I've got a bit of gender dysphoria. Like, I don't know if I'm a man anymore. Like, I don't really know what's going on. It's like, no, I'm definitely a woman. I feel depressed as fuck living my life this way. I feel suicidal. That's what they're saying. And by the way, suicidal does not mean suicide. It's not the same thing. How many people have actually committed suicide over this kind of thing? There was all this scaremongering about these 16 kids from the Tavistock clinic, the Tavistock 16. When the government looked into it, there was maybe 7 cases that they could confirm where these kids killed themselves because they couldn't get access to the stuff, which sucks. We shouldn't be seeing any of that. But the years before, the Keira Bell case, when it was available, albeit oversubscribed as fuck, because everyone wants to do it right now because it's a trend, I think it was about 5 of them killed themselves in the years above. So there was a little difference, but we insist on using cases where we cannot tell that that's why they killed themselves. People have all sorts of other problems, and it's fucking tough. But he's invoking something. He's getting this wrong. Like, it's not suicide, it's suicidality.
Trans people, and that providing that care lowers that rate in some cases by...
This is such an oversimplified way of looking at it. And he doesn't understand the problems, potential problems with the data. Look at the CAS review. They explain how a lot of the data that's affirming is not good quality because we can't really do double blinds, which is fine. But that doesn't mean we should then accept lower quality evidence as gospel. We should take what we can from it and understand what it does kind of point to. But it's not this slam dunk. Here we go. Well, this one says it lowers suicidality, improves mental health, which, by the way, the UK, I can't remember what it was called. Was it Hall, etc.? Hall et al. Or a different one? They tried to replicate the Dutch protocol, which kicked all this off, and they didn't find the improvements to mental health. Like, there's been other stuff in, like, Sweden and places like that. That's why countries are slowly starting to come around on this shit and realize that they're being, like, taken for mugs, you know? And, hey, Britain's one of the first ones. Fucking... I've never really been particularly patriotic because pride is just something I don't really feel. I'm more proud of things I've made, like albums and stuff like that. But at the same time, I do feel a bit patriotic over this shit. I'm not going to lie. I think we've actually done something fucking good for the world for once. People with BPD have a higher suicidality than trans. Yeah, and suicidality is a nebulous term in and of itself because it means that I might have suicidal thoughts occasionally. But do the vast majority of people who show any kind of suicidality actually kill themselves?
Like 80%. It's very clear that you don't actually care.
80%. Where's that thing from? And then we just go back to the conclusion. It's obvious that you don't actually care, but you don't know this. You've never spoken to this person. How much have you listened to him? The things he says. How much have you looked into the stuff that they're saying? You're just assuming that it's bad, assuming that it has to be transphobia because he can't fathom. His brain is too tiny. His mind is too tiny to fathom any other perspective. So it's his perspective or you're evil because these people live like it's a video game or a cartoon or a fucking film or something. France is going ahead with puberty blocker use. Well, they might find themselves going back on that at some point soon. I know Germany is trying to be like self-ID and stuff, but I don't know. I don't think history is going to treat them kindly, unfortunately. And we're going to see similar problems that we have.
Thanks for the virtue signal, though, bro. We totally fall for it. This is how
virtue signal. You're just applying cynicism to his side because you are on the other side, and to you everything is about sides.
British people are rude, by the way. British people are never like overtly rude. They're never like in your face about how they don't like you.
I think I can be overtly rude when I want to, but okay. This is the Meritu erasure we're hearing right now.
Where they think you're shit. They're always very sly and sarcastic about it. It's part of British culture.
He doesn't understand dry humor. It's called dry humor, xanderhal. We take the piss out of each other. We take the piss out of ourselves. We take the piss out of everything because we're all a bit miserable. The weather sucks. We're all stuck living way too close to each other in our fucking terraced houses and massive fucking apartment buildings that get fucking moldy or whatever the fuck is wrong with them because half of them weren't built properly. So we use humor. That's simple. Listen, you could understand British people so well if you come talk to me sometime. Hey, xanderhal, I'll put you straight, okay? You'll understand, or you will become a brick wall and refuse to acknowledge a single thing I say. I don't know, because it's much easier for you to think that someone like me is like self-hating, and that's why I get called self-hating so much. I don't hate myself. I used to. Transitioning was like partly something I did because I hated myself so much, because I didn't care about myself. I didn't want to look after myself. I became someone that I was prepared to care about and look after. And what I realized is that I didn't need to do that. Like, if we cared more about like gender non-conforming people and helping them understand that they can be what they want and still be that, you know, that maybe we'd have a better time in life and not as many of us would need to transition. But hey.
Any Britbongers in chat can confirm this. This is just a British thing. They're never honest about how they don't like you. They'll just say something.
What? I don't know. Maybe there's some truth to it, but this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Something a little bit smarmy in a bit of a backhanded insult.
All of the statistics for mental ill health, self-harm, and suicide. I can't pretend to know what that's like, but I do know what it's like to feel you have to bury a secret about yourself, to be afraid of who you are, to be bullied for it.
Like read the room, bro. Like, what are you doing?
Read the room, bro?
Read the room.
Read what room? Where do you think he is right now?
And then to experience the liberating experience of coming out. I know it.
Does xanderhal know that Wes Streeting is gay? I'm just going to watch a bit and see if he understands that this is a gay man who, as such, has kind of had his experience of these kind of feelings. You know what I'm saying?
Won't feel like it based on the decisions I'm taking today, but I really do care about this, and so does this government. I'm determined to improve the quality of care and access to healthcare for all trans people. There is not.
You just restricted access to care.
Also, because they're restricting one avenue of care, that means that they're against it. Like, this person thinks like a child. This is a childish way of thinking. You're just boiling it down to the most basic facts. Puberty blockers, man banning, therefore bad. It's childish. It takes no effort to debunk this shit, but so many of them just keep saying the same thing. And I watch people saying the same thing, and I will just keep repeating. But I mean, hey, it kind of helps me in a way, because it helps me work out the wording to the things that I think when I hear this kind of stuff. It helps me refine my arguments and my positions. So in a way, it kind of helps me. Because, hey, this person isn't developing anything. They're just going along with it and saying what the right thing is and what these people in his chat want to hear. Bro is illiterate and no longer knows. Shut the fuck up, you sad cunt. Like, it's cooked. It's just so cooked. It's insanely cooked. Yeah, I should stop pretending that I like xanderhal, right? I'm pretending that I like him too much. I love you.
For trans people. You can't...
I know it's just changing your language. Yeah, truthfully, I still balk at the word man some, but, you know, what am I saying if I say that I'm not a man when I'm saying that I'm a male and I'm an adult human? Like, isn't that what a man is, an adult human male? I don't know. I would rather fucking accept who I am and understand who I am and understand that I'm quite lucky because maybe I didn't need to transition, but I did. And certain things in my life happened because I transitioned that I'm very grateful for, such as meeting my partner. And I'm compelled to feminize anyway because I'm just how I am.
It's like cutting taxes on the rich and saying, I am opposed to cutting taxes.
Yeah, I really need to write something out and like explain how I got to this point someday. And I will. It'll happen. It'll happen at some point.
The rich, as you, like in your statement about, is like cutting taxes on the rich and saying, I am opposed to cutting taxes for the rich. As you, like in your statement about cutting taxes for the rich.
No, it's not like that, because what you're saying is saying one thing and then doing the exact opposite of that thing. Cutting puberty blockers because there's not enough evidence that they're good for people is not saying you care about trans people and then, you know, indicating that you don't care about trans people. That's a conclusion you've come to, and it's a completely insane conclusion.
Rich, like, what are you doing? I'm glad the comments are calling it out. It's inhumane that vulnerable groups are taking advantage.
I'm glad the comments are calling it out. Yeah, I'm glad of these fucking handmaidens and whatever a male handmaiden is. Brilliant. Amazing. Such brave people sticking up for trans rights by shitting on Wes Streeting. Fuck me.
And push down a harmful path. A lot of us get suppressed for minor pushback. Wait, something common sense is done by... Oh, wait, never...
God, this person is never... Oh, wait, hang on. Is he reading a TERF?
Never mind. They're all in favor of it. Wait.
Bitch. Bitch. No wonder he never shows anything on screen. What a fucking loser. What a fucking bitch. Oh my god. Owned.
Something common sense is being done by the government? This is bizarre. There it is, guys. Did I not tell you? Common sense. When something is common sense, you don't challenge it logically in your head. You don't...
You know why he thinks this? Because he has no common sense. If he had any common sense at any point in his life, it has been smoked the fuck out of his brain. Listen, one time, there's a quite famous clip of xanderhal, considering it's xanderhal, nothing's that famous around him. He did an IQ test and it came out at like 91. And then he like talked to his mum afterwards, like coping over it. Listening to his mum, it's like you really see the trail, you know what I mean? You see where he came from. Male handmaiden is just your bargain bin misogynist. I could start using misogynist, but it feels a bit woke scoldy. I don't know. I'm trying not to apply labels like misogynist and transphobe and homophobe and other stuff unless it's really like apt, you know? Also, if you like the stream, make sure you like the stream. I'm going crazy today for some reason. You can support the stream on Streamlabs. You can super chat. You can also subscribe on Twitch. If you're using Twitch, you can subscribe to me, obviously, on YouTube. That helps endlessly. Watch my videos sometime when I'm not live. You can check out my music, and you can check out my Discord. Anyway.
Google things to see if maybe your ideas are incorrect, because it's common sense. Of course. The first useful thing the Labour government have done. It's criminal this was ever allowed in the first place. Doctors responsible for child sterilization should be in prison. It does not sterilize any children, by the way. The only sensible answer I've heard from doctors responsible for child sterilization should be in prison. It does not sterilize any children, by the way.
I don't know that it's not true. Fuck, so many double negatives. Let me just think this a sec. I don't know if it's true that puberty blockers ever actually sterilize someone. I think there are cases because like it causes your genitals to atrophy in some cases. But the other issue is it overwhelmingly goes on to cross-sex hormones, which will sterilize you. It's part of the process. It's not its own distinct thing. And then you move on to another own distinct thing. It's a process. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I'm saying? So even if they don't really do it themselves, and even if puberty blockers are generally more reversible and less likely to cause irreversible harm, way to say two things in the same way, it leads on to stuff that causes more of those problems. It's part of the process. So either way, he's like completely wrong and refuses to understand.
The only sensible answer I've heard from...
And this fucking hug box of chatters that also think that this kind of shit is like... that also have the wrong opinion on this shit. Like, they're keeping him stupid. They're keeping him beholden to a ridiculous ideology that overstepped the mark long ago, that plenty transsexual people like myself didn't want. I transitioned because it was like a personal thing, and because of my insane compulsion to like feminize myself that was out of control. Like, fucking hell. It has objectively sterilized children. The only question is whether it's partial or total sterilization. Yeah. And even if you could say that it doesn't often happen in the case of puberty blockers, most people on puberty blockers go on to cross-sex hormones, which do sterilize you. I'm sterile as fuck. Again, talk to an actual transsexual that hasn't had their fucking brain boiled by the cult. You know what I mean? Like, he could understand. He could understand if he wanted to. But he's got all these people holding him back. And he's got his own fucking diseased, cult-ridden brain holding him back.
From this government in the past few years. The only sensible thing I've heard from this government so far. Finally, the UK being sensible, America should follow suit. The first sensible thing the British government has done for a long... How many of these are bots? These have to be bots. Like,
we love you straighting, we do. We love you straighting, we do. Anyway.
Has to be bots flooding this comment section. I would have thought it was a fatal...
because they agree with you, they have to be bots? People feel this way, XanderHal. I'm so sorry about it. Why don't you actually talk to people? Why don't you actually try and understand the other perspective instead of just shitting on it? It's insane. I mean, I know why he doesn't. It's because he wants to scrape what little he can from his audience, because he doesn't make very much doing this, you know? It's not like I do. I can't talk in that department, but I don't have 104k subscribers. You know what I mean? It's laughable, man. It boggles the mind.
to mess around with the
There's
bodies.
a clip. Sorry, I keep pausing at Xander, who cares? There's a clip of him being like, so who are all these other streamers that you're giving money to? Sure nice if you gave me some. And you know he's like serious, but he's trying to pretend it's a joke. It's like, dude is like, Jesus. He was talking before about like potentially stopping his stream if like his numbers don't pick up and stuff. And I think they have. Like, he's got the advantage of being able to grift on hating on Trump for years to come. Shitting on right-wingers. Right-wing grift is imploding. How many times is the right-wing grift going to implode while it's still existing somehow? Because it can't ever die. It's just always dying. That's who it is. But I mean, like, hey, 8.8k, 38k, the Daily Wire thing with Brett Cooper. Not something I've looked into, but whatever. Matt Walsh, like, as if we needed more wokeoid fucking videos about Matt Walsh. Like, how many videos have been made about Matt Walsh on YouTube over the years? xanderhal needs to talk about Dr. Joanna Olsen-Kennedy. Yep, he never will, though, because he's a pussy and is scared of anything that contradicts his narrative.
Natural puberty cycle like that.
Trump saved his channel. Kind of did, yeah.
For those that have taken... I would have thought it'd be fatal to mess with the body's natural puberty cycle. These are the people. These are the medical geniuses on the anti-trans side of things, folks. For those that have taken...
What have they said that's wrong?
...them, the damage will probably be irreversible. Why not just Google it? You said probably because you...
Even if that is the case, like I said, it's part of a chain. And the whole chain, that will... undisputedly, especially if followed to its conclusion, surgery and stuff like that, it will infertilize you. That's just how it is. I'm trans. I know this shit. I know what's going on. Like, I don't know. The capture that this person has around his brain, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And somehow he's still able to fucking... I make more money in 2 days as a truck driver than xanderhal begs from his soy audience. To be fair, what does xanderhal do? Like, streams 2 or 3 times a week, like for about 2-3 hours? I stream way more than he fucking does. Because I actually have an interest in doing this. And I like being able to look at things and try and continue, like, developing my perspective and continue understanding the truth. Whereas he just wants to roll out of bed. He used to have someone literally run the show for him called Cherry. Or Cherry, I can't remember. You know, when he was... Listen, we're getting into deep lore. Does anyone remember all this, like, spamming, like, Cherry, Cherry, harmless, Cherry, Cherry? All that shit. Because he was going insane. He was going to murder Keffels or something. I don't know. We'll do a xanderhal deep dive one day. We're going to become, like, rightoid version of Leo and Willie. I wonder how many people are out there like us. There's more and more of us. Listen, the thing is... A lot of the normal transsexuals, which I am not normal, by the way, at all. I'm not claiming to be. Streamers that are making money over 3-day. Yeah. Lower streamers are all the time. Yeah, because we're trying to actually make money, you know. But then you get people like Chud Logic and like Destiny and stuff like that who stream like almost every day for like longer than I do. Like someone like Chud Logic streams like what? 8 hours a day? By the time it gets to 6 hours, I'm usually completely unintelligible. But yeah, this guy used to have someone that literally picked topics for him, did fucking everything, and he would just roll out of bed, fucking charge up his vape, smoke some weed, fucking just sit there. Virtue signaling. I mean, yeah, homeless. I'll be homeless, cherry, harmless, cherry, v. We'll go there somewhere, we'll go there. Do we need to keep watching this? I'll watch a tiny bit. Tanking his social battery. Yeah, I know, I'm being a bit mean, aren't I? I'm being a bit mean.
You clearly don't know. You weren't even confident enough to state it will be. You clearly don't know, so why not Google it? Just you clearly acknowledge a lack of concrete knowledge in this field.
Why won't Xanderhal Google what's the percentage of like people on puberty blockers that then go on to cross-sex hormones? Because there's most of them, you know what I'm saying? Is most of them. But he won't admit that. So you can shit on someone, oh, you won't Google this specific thing that probably doesn't by itself do that much, but still does to some people. But he won't look at it as a larger thing. You know, is it called not missing the wood for the trees? I can't remember. Maybe it's the other way around. He's a Zan child. Yeah, true. There is definitely a Peter Pan syndrome aspect here, for sure. And this person hasn't done like normal jobs ever, if not for ages, you know? So either way, like he's not developing as a person. He's getting worse. And that's what this like cult mentality does to you. That's what being in an echo chamber does to you. And people accuse me of being in an echo chamber. If they actually had any honesty about them, they could come into my community and try and understand people instead of just debate broing everyone or making an assumption and leaving immediately, like anyone who disagrees does, unfortunately. I say anyone, there's still a variety, there's still diversity of opinion. But hey, these people don't want diversity of opinion. They want diversity aesthetically. So you've got black people who think the same as you. You've got trans people who think exactly the same as you. You've got someone with Down syndrome who thinks exactly the same as you. You've got someone with only one leg who still thinks exactly the same as you. That's not diversity, Nibber. That's bullshit. Probably had one job at GameStop, maybe. I can't be arsed watching this. It's stupid. Yeah, there we go. I probably failed in not ad homing xanderhal, but it is what it is.